And it would be easy to explain that our behavior is one of patterns, is one of behavior in a situation. And when we want to predict how people will behave, the interview that focuses on behavior or situational behavior says, or the claim is, that a person's behavior in the future in a specific situation will be best predicted if we look at his past and how he or she behaved in the same or similar situation. So if we want to know how the person will, so if we want to predict how a person will behave, let's say when he's in his marketing position next month, I want to think ahead about the situation that he or she are going to face in that position. What are the challenges going to be? What are the complicated situations that whenever someone's in that situation, it's going to be hard for them. And I'm going to see who are the people that are functioning good in that situation and who are my employees that are not functioning so good in that situation. I want to think a bit ahead of time, and then when I go to interview our candidate, I'm going to ask them, have you ever been in such a situation? What did you do? And when I listen and hear their past behavior in a specific situation that is completely connected to the one that I'm going to have tomorrow when they go into the job, I can see the connection. I can see that, or I can predict based on how they behaved in the past, how they'll behave in the future when they're working with me. Question?
A person learns out of a situation, right?
So you're saying they were in the past and they did something and they learned out of it?
Yes, so it doesn't mean that in future I will react the same.
So you're saying, if I saw someone, if I did something wrong last night, like I ate something that I know I shouldn't, and I tell myself, I know I shouldn't, I gained 2 pounds from that cake, from tomorrow I'm gonna diet. No problem, right?
There are people that can do it.
There are people that can do it, but we know, like we tried it for ourselves, that just deciding something and just learning about something and knowing it in our head doesn't make it change. I can tell myself 1,000 times, next day, tomorrow I'm not going to yell at my kids no. And then they do something and I yell at my kids no, even though I learned. Even though I went to Adler to have teachers and parent consulting, whatever.
It helps.
It helps, I've been told. שלי כבר פספסתי.
Normally, and you said like normally you ask an employee.
Just to make sure, what I'm trying to say is that I can trust 100% that if someone did something in the past, there's a good likelihood that they'll do it in the future. We're not mathematics. Only by him saying or her saying, I learned it, I hope I'm going to do something different, it's still hoping. You're right that some people do change, okay? Sometimes we decide, I'm going to stop smoking. To that I never smoked, so it's easy for me to use it. Okay, tomorrow I'm going to stop smoking, and they stop. We just don't know that they stopped 10 times before, and this time it worked because it was the 10th time. And because something very strongly connected them to not smoking. And just by thinking about something, it's not enough to see that they've learned. And think about things that you learned. It's usually a process. It takes time for something to sink in. Okay. So if we saw that someone learned and they show us an example of after learning, then that's okay. But if they just say it, I know I learned something and tomorrow I'm going to do different, that's not enough for me to trust in an interview. Okay?
You normally, when you're interviewing, I tend to ask more like about the extreme situations, especially
right.
About stress. And those are not necessarily habits, and that's easy to learn from.
That's
what
not
happened. Like I don't know, all your campaigns were whatever. Like this, I don't know.
You're exactly talking about what we're gonna talk in a few minutes. Okay, you're just
I always go.
Excellent. We have a saying. It's an excellent question because I have a slide about. It's your. So you're right, we're going to ask about extreme situations. It's situations that if we have a good habit, then even if it takes us something out of our habit, but we have a good base. But if someone doesn't perform well on the day-to-day or performs only on the day-to-day and the extreme situation, they lose it, then we see it in the interview and we'll see it in the field later. So we'll talk about why I'm talking about מצבים מורכבים, a few slides from now. הייתה לך שאלה?
כן, את למעשה מתבססת על מה שהוא אומר לך. כלומר, אני שואל אותו שאלה על...
An interview is always subjective. I always have to trust what the person tells me. It's always a דיווח עצמי, לא יודעת איך לתרגם את זה, אבל it's always someone talking about themselves. We're talking about the interview. It's not an exam and it's not even a simulation. In an interview, when you ask questions, there's always the person talking about themselves, and if I have to decide what do I want him to talk about, the best things to ask about are what they really did in the future, in the past. Instead of asking what do you think you'll do in the future, what do you wish would happen, what do you believe would... Okay, instead of looking to the mind and to the thought, we're looking at something concrete. What did you do? Okay, that's the best information out of self-evidence that we can rely on. Okay? Odd. So, one more thing about the structured situational behavior is that we're building a questionnaire in advance. We're making it structured. We're making it something that several interviewers that are going to come, they're all going to see the same questionnaire and they're all going to ask the same questions. So, and they all know what are the answers in advance that we're looking for, or a general type of answers. We'll see what it means in a few minutes. Okay, so we want to prepare it in advance so that it doesn't matter who interviews, we'll all know what we're looking for in that specific interview. It's going to be when it's for each position we're going to have the same or we're going to structure a questionnaire in advance. Okay? מה אנחנו עושים עם מישהו שהוא חדש, with juniors? What do we do when someone doesn't have experience? What do you think? When they come and this is their first job, what do you ask about?
They still have a past.
Right, they still have a past. So what do we ask about?
שירות בצבא.
Okay.
What they studied at school. Things that they have done. תנועות נוער.
So we have the army, we have volunteer work, we have school or university, we have...
And many times that's for their families. They're very junior. I ask what their parents do.
You did?
You call their parents? No, don't.
I don't call the parents. I ask what their parents do or their brothers.
No, don't ask what their parents do. Please don't ask what their parents do. I recommend not to go into family. I'll talk about it in a second, but let's put family and friends here.
What they studied, hobbies, exactly.
So I'm not talking about what I'm looking for. I'm in a second I'll say what I'm looking for there. But we're looking just for what past they have. Okay, so you're said right. It's not that they start their life when they're 22. They're not tabula rasa. They're not לא באים לוח חלק לעבודה בגיל 21. So especially not in Israel, but I don't think anywhere in the world. But you're right. In Israel they have a lot of experience that they've gathered. But if we're looking at the army or school or university or volunteer work or תנועת נוער, איך אומרים באנגלית? How do you say Boy Scout, youth? Say Boy Girl Scout, okay? למיניהם. בסדר? צופים ותנועות למיניהם. We have experience that we can ask about. So if I'm looking at my youngest, who's 12 now, and since I remember since he was 5, he was fixing up the computers in our house. And then when he got to school, he was fixing the computers in the school. And whenever someone had a problem, they'd call him, bring him out of class, which he was very happy to come out of class and go and fix the computers anywhere. Then when he'll be the age, 18, he'll already have 13 years of experience. If I'm looking at myself, when I got to the army when I was 18, I knew I wanted to go and work with people. So I went to be a mashakitash. And because people always told me I'm someone who's good listener or good with people. So I knew I wanted to be with people. We sort of self-select ourselves to the professions or to things that we do, whether it's technical, whether it's people, whether it's, writing, journalism. different things. It's not that we know in advance what we're going to do, and life takes us to different things, but we have experiences that if I'm asking in the interview, were you ever in a situation that you had to persuade someone or to sell something to someone, labriut, even if it's their first formal labriut sales job, the person will be able to tell us about their lemonade stand when they were 10, or about how they raised money for the Sefer Machzor, for the yearbook, or, okay, do you agree? When you think about yourself, do you see yourself when you were 15, 18, 20, doing things that are connected to what you did in your first job? Do you see some sort of connection? Legamre lo? Nothing that you did when you were 20 that you could talk about?
הייתי? יחצן מסיבות? לא. הייתי בצופים.
היית בצופים. I'm asking if you had something in your history that we could ask about. If you did study, if you studied, if you knew how to study, if you knew how to learn, if you knew how to present something to a forum. I'm not saying that it's connected to the same job. I'm saying that we have a history, even if it's not formal, that we can ask about. And when I'm saying not family and friends, we're talking about the behavior that is situational. Yeah. If we look at the connection that we have with our parents, with our spouse, with our kids, it's not the same as our connection with our managers, with our peers, with our employees.